everybody, to today's session. We're excited to jump in. We're going to be talking about data-driven approach to customer experience. And to do that, we brought on Taylor Johnson. Taylor, thanks for joining. And how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Gabe?
Yeah, good. Again, appreciate you taking the time. I think this will be fun. It's always fun to hear people who are like doing it, like really living, breathing all of the challenges, all the overwhelming feelings that I think we're all feeling. Like you really feel it. I fake it, basically. And so excited to have your perspective as we jump in. Before we do that, take a minute, tell the audience just a little bit about yourself and some of the cool things you've been up to.
Yeah, so I'm Taylor. I'm the director of customer experience at Nathan James. We are an online furniture retailer. And yeah, my job is essentially to make sure that customers, from the time that they're coming to our website and trying to decide what piece of furniture that they want to buy from their home, all the way through to when that piece of furniture actually arrives, and then even beyond that, making sure that they have a great experience. Um, and yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I love it. I love it. When you with that experience, does your team get involved? When do they typically get involved? Is it really at that like website visit, or is it really like post purchase, or how do you kind of navigate that relationship?
Yeah, we try to be there for the customer really at any point along the journey that they need us. Um, if they A lot of times, if a customer is coming to the website and they're looking for something, they may have specific questions about product materials or dimensions. So they may reach out to our team pre-purchase,
Yeah.
get that kind of information. Sometimes even asking for recommendations. Will this
Yes.
product look good with this product? So my team is there to assist with that part of the journey. And then once someone places their order, obviously they're excited, they're waiting for it to get to their home. So if they have any questions during that part of the journey, they're going to reach out to us and we're going to,
Yes, I love that. I love that. I mean, that's that
yeah,
connection of kind of marketing and customer experience that I think is so many people are trying to find the balance of. Sounds like you guys are playing there. Sometimes people have fun names for, like these they're not customer service reps so much as, it's almost like a consultant or something. Have you guys dabbled in that, if I may ask, or do you just kind of have
we
this
kind of,
understanding?
yeah. So we're the customer happiness team.
Cool. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah. I've heard some really creative, some pretty creative ones actually out there, but I like that one.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, like I said, I think it'll be interesting to get your perspective on some of the things going on just from the real world in the trenches. So, one of the things that a lot of our audience has asked is around this idea of impact. I'm curious what you feel like leaders get wrong when it comes to showing impact.
Yeah, I think the challenge that we have in CX is to not just share data, not just track metrics. We actually have to show what the value of what those metrics represent. So translating them into business outcomes and tying them into like goals that we're trying to achieve as a business, I think is the most important part. And that's how you're going to get buy-in. That's how you're going to get decisions made, get budget. So I think that's the biggest thing is we need to make sure that we're tying them and can speak the language that people who are making the big decisions speak.
Where do you feel like people go? Is there, I mean, when you did interact with colleagues or friends or peers, like I think a lot of people know that concept and idea, but it's like hard to do for some reason. Is there something we're missing? Is it the presentations that we do? Like, where do you feel like people drop the ball? Because I feel like I've talked to people about that and they're like, I
Yeah.
get it, but I can't do it.
Yeah, I think starting is the big thing. Get started somewhere. It's going to be messy at first, probably, but you got to get started, and then you can kind of learn and improve as you go. So, like, don't wait for your data to be clean and perfect. For example, you got to get started even when it's messy.
Yeah.
Try to squeeze as much out of it as you can, and go from there. And like, don't wait to start tracking things too. At a bare minimum,
Yeah.
track why your customers are contacting you, so that as you go, you can start to tie in those contact reasons to outcomes and costs. So yeah, I think just get started and make sure that you are starting to track something.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like people sometimes get lost in the data concept. I've heard you mention this idea of like it's not just about data, it's also about stories, etc. How do you balance that? Because yeah, everyone's always like, oh, we to personalize, we need more data and data. And sometimes I find people gathering data and they're like, I don't even know I have this. Or, I have so much data but sounds like you've kind of been, yes, data is part of it, but the stories matter as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's a fine line that you have to balance. But typically you want to kind of try to take it back first principles, like what as a business, what do we want to accomplish right now? What's most important to us? And
Yeah.
then from there, try to understand, okay, what customer signals can we tie into this business goal that we're trying to accomplish? And then from there, you can start to go even deeper to figure out exactly which metrics, which pieces of data are going to show me what I need to know to help improve or reach this business goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, start like as low, I guess as high, as low down as you can, bring it all the way back to understand what is the big goal, what's the big picture that we want to accomplish, and then kind of work down from there.
That's almost like starting with the end in mind. Like I
Yeah,
think that
exactly.
the yeah, it's like what the story that the data is telling, obviously. So and that's the harder, that's almost becoming the harder part. A lot of us are finding more data, but interpreting it and really trying to figure out, what is the goal we're trying to do or what's the story it's telling matters. Within that same vein, I think a lot of people are asking themselves, metrics, right? It ties in, I think, with this talk track. We still struggle. There's just so many metrics, I guess, right? So
Right.
it's like, what are the right metrics? Like, how would you answer the question? What are the right metrics to be measuring?
And it depends. It's going to depend so much on like the space that you're in, your products, your business model. But and then also what goal that you're trying to accomplish. But as like a general example, if your business is trying to reduce returns, that's your overarching goal. A great place to start would be your returns data, right?
Mm,
Dive into that and understand, okay, what particular SKUs are driving a large percentage of our returns? What particular return
yeah.
reasons are showing up most in our returns? And then from there, you can go a little bit deeper until ultimately you should be able to pull out an insight there that allows you to like take action. Um,
Yeah, that's cool. That's a little bit different. I mean, that's a good way to maybe start really actually figuring out what metrics do matter. Like
yeah.
if you're looking at some of that return information, you might be able to identify some of that stuff because it
Yeah.
really
So
is different with each business has.
exactly. And what phase that business is in currently as well. So just depending on like what the goal is, what's going to make the biggest impact for your team or your company. Start there and then drill in. Keep drilling in.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I mean, vanity metrics probably isn't the right word, but there are a lot of numbers that can be, almost distracting's too, that's also too strong at times. But have you found sometimes that leaders do go down rabbit holes where it's like, be careful around some of these metrics because they might be interesting for you, they wouldn't be interesting for your boss or anything,
Yeah.
any words of caution around certain metrics?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about things like CSAT or NPS, for example, you may see from within a 6 month time period, you may see your CSAT score increase,
Yeah.
which, okay, great, but what did that do for the business? Where did that move the needle? Or did we reduce our returns? Did we increase our repeat purchase rate? What exact impact on the business did that have? So without that story to tell about what did this increase in CSAT do for us, I think that's kind of where we get stuck in this
Yeah.
vanity metric thing. Like we're seeing CSAT and we
Yeah.
know ideally we want it to be high, right? But what does it mean when it's high, or what does it mean when it's low?
Yeah, that's back to that. Look, one of the points I think that's really resonating with me is, being able to interpret data or take some of this data and make sense of it. I know you've mentioned that now just in a couple different ideas, but any other tidbits or tricks because yeah, again, I think sometimes it's easier to find the data. It's harder to actually turn that raw data into stories. Any tips or tricks you've found to actually crystallize some of the things we're touching on here?
Yeah, so if you know as a CX leader, you may know, for example, like we know that a large volume of our tickets every month are customers reaching out, where's my order?
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
okay, that's the data, right? And then from there, we need to understand why does this matter? Why do we need leaders to know this? And what action are we going to take because of it?
Mhm.
And it may be that we know that those customers are X% less likely to come back for a repeat purchase with us. So what we can say then is we know customers are having trouble knowing where their order is when it's in transit. So we need to improve our post-purchase tracking and shipping experience.
Yeah.
So then once we improve that, we know that we can improve retention because customers are going to come back and purchase more. Not only that, there's costs associated with customers reaching out to us. So if we cut those where's my order tickets in half,
Yeah.
we're going to reduce the costs that are associated with those customers reaching
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Look, I think that's a great example. That's one of those ways we can start to take some of the nitty gritty and actually turn it into something that means something. You've been good, I think, at breaking down things into different frameworks. Like, hey, let's take a step back for a minute. And I think a lot of CX leaders almost need like a step-by-step process to understand how to kind of run through this data narrative. Anything you've found to kind of be like, Gabe, if I took a step back and was hoping, now you're a consultant, now you're not a practitioner. What is that process that you would coach organizations through to say, hey, maybe start here and then work your way systematically to see if you can't start to nail this idea of using data more effectively?
Yeah, yeah. And again, like start with that business goal, understand if you
Yeah,
don't
the end in
know
mind
this,
is huge. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
figure
Okay.
that out. Identify the 1 to 2 metrics that will influence that. And then start to set up a consistent way to measure that. And again, like it can be very nitty gritty for like have a Google sheet and ideally you're tracking like contact reasons so you can pull your contact reasons out of your help desk, dump them into the Google sheet, combine it with something like your returns data, some data from Shopify, wherever you need to get the insights that you're looking for, put it all in that Google sheet. And it might be manual at first, but start to look at that data on a regular like a monthly basis,
Yeah.
and share results internally as well. Like don't wait, get it in front of somebody, whether that's your manager, if you have a place, a space that you can share it with other leaders, that's great as well, but
Yeah.
make sure you're getting it in front of somebody.
Yeah, I think we don't do that last one enough.
Yeah,
There's so much, I don't want to, it's selling makes it sound almost negative, but there's a lot of like communication, cross-functional communication, internal advertising, or there's just we're all so busy. But yeah, I do think oftentimes we're trying to get that out to different. We've got to communicate just more effectively internally, I think, to be able to help justify and help people understand what we do. I'm
yeah,
glad you
absolutely.
did that one. Do you feel like it's fun? I appreciate kind of the talk track here today, Taylor, as you run through some of these different things and we look to wrap here. What would you maybe leave the audience with? As there's obviously a million things going on in the world. Data is such an important topic, especially as we think about using technology more effectively, personalizing more effectively, which are all things we're trying to do in this fun, interesting economy.
Yeah.
Leave behinds for the audience, or what would kind of advice would you give people as they try to kind of navigate this data journey?
Yeah, yeah. Just yeah, take a step back, think about the decision that you're trying to influence, the goal you're trying to reach. Understand like your audience as well. Who needs to see
Mm,
this? Why do they care about it? What business outcomes are you going to tie to the data to make sure that this person does care about it?
yeah,
And then figure out how you're going to translate that into an action or financials. And make sure that you have the data to do that, whether that's something that you have to track with your team or you pull it from other places within the business.
yeah, I love it. I love it. I think that's a great kind of summary. So, okay, awesome. Well, again, really appreciate the talk track, Taylor. I think it's fun to kind of walk through some of these specifics as people try to navigate that. So, we'll let you go and thank you for your time, and for the
Well, thank
audience.
you.
Have a fantastic day. See ya.
Thanks. Bye.